We are live. We are live. Welcome to Medical Monday. This is Dr. Frita Live, where we talk about the latest trending medical headlines and celebrity health news. Ooh, this is the last live of 2025. So let's just talk about so many of the things that we've covered today. We will open up by talking about recalls because 2025 has been a year of recalls, whether it was frozen shrimp or radioactive shrimp or pasta dishes gone awry or listeria outbreaks, or even botulism in infant formula. We've had a lot of recalls. So let's talk about that. And then celebrity health. Celebrity health news has been on and on and on. We have talked about Trump's health, his hands that have been dark and covered on one side with makeup. We've talked about his swollen ankles. We've talked about Diddy's health, his emotional health as he's undergone his trial. We've lost celebrities, unfortunately, such as Dwayne Wiggins of Tony to bladder cancer. We've had strokes in young people. We've had strokes in Childish Gambino, or actually Donald Glover. And so we'll talk about celebrity health news and what it has taught us this year. And then outbreaks. Sadly, we've gone backwards as far as a lot of infections. We've had measles outbreaks. And right now we're having this subclade K influenza A breakout, and it's really just cutting up and doing all kinds of nasty things. Bird flu, you name it. So we'll talk about the outbreaks, and then we'll talk about 2025, a year in review of just kind of your health goals and not just looking back, but looking forward. So go ahead and get your pens and pencils ready. We're going to talk about celebrity health news, trending medical headlines, a year in review, and what 2025 has taught you. I'm Dr. Frita. Give us a like as we get started. This is Dr. Frita Live. Let's go. Hello, hello. We are live. I'm Dr. Frita. I hope y'all had a wonderful holiday. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, all of the things. And now here we are on Dr. Frita Live. It's the last live of 2025. You know I'm not hosting this thing alone. To my co-host, Miss Shador, and my office manager, please come on up to the front of the stage. How are you doing, Shador?
Good. How are you doing? Happy holidays.
Doing pretty well. Good, good. How was Christmas?
Christmas was good. How was yours?
It was good. It was good. We had a lot of family time, so that was exciting. And thank you to the gifts from your family to mine. Those cookies didn't stand a chance. So tell Shadoria the recipe was great. They are gone.
Well, she has to make one for the house.
And the cake didn't stand a chance. It almost stood a chance. It was neat. You know, we had the gathering that you know about where I got with my McCrae cousins on my daddy's side. But then the day after Christmas, everybody came here. And so goodbye cake. It was a hit. So thank you very much. We had a good time. And listen, I want y'all to check out to everybody here in the chat, check out my social media platforms because I posted something from the day after Christmas celebration with the McCrae cousins, where we did all kinds of dancing and all kinds of stuff. And so that was quite fun. And fun fact, did you know that dancing can decrease your risk for dementia by 76%? This is according to, isn't that something? According to a New England Journal of Medicine study that was published back in October 2021. And so all of my first cousins and I really reduced our chance of dementia. But if y'all check it out on my social media platforms, follow me on all social media platforms at Dr.Frita. I have fun, exciting content that's different on the different platforms. All right, Shador, who was the first person in the chat today?
Person in the chat today is Miss Aileen.
Miss Aileen.
She's happy to be a part of the last live for the year.
Yay. Miss Aileen, I really appreciate you. You are such a loyal participant. You always give your opinions. You're in here answering questions, jumping out. And that's really what makes this a success. You know, it makes Dr. Frita Live a success. You know, not just me up here talking, but the interaction, the different perspectives. So thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, shall we go ahead and get this thing started?
Yeah.
Why not? Why not? So there's so many things in 2025. let's start off with some of the recalls that we've had. And I'll tell you, listen, I want y'all to please pull out your pencils or take notes in your smartphones, because what I've realized as I went through and was kind of looking back at 2025, we have covered a lot of information right here on the channel. And fortunately, it's all time stamped. And so as we go through and we talk about the recalls, I want you to jot them down, because if you go in the search bar, just in Google, YouTube, and you put Dr. Frita Listeria, Dr. Frita Salmonella, you'll find that I have really good short content that will give you a reminder. So we'll touch on it, but also you can go back even after we finish speaking and look it up, because we really covered quite a bit. So, and for those of you who are new to us, I am Dr. Frita. This is our YouTube channel. We have over 939,000 subscribers here on YouTube. And so I thank you all so much. And if you have not already subscribed, please subscribe and make sure you give us a like. We give evidence-based content here. I am an MD. I'm a medical doctor. I've been quadruple board certified. So I'm a board certified nephrologist, meaning I'm a kidney doctor and a high blood pressure doctor. I've also been board certified in internal medicine, pediatrics, obesity medicine. And so I love to learn. I read medical journals every single day. And most importantly, I love to share my information with you. So make sure you check us out and give us a like, give us a subscribe, follow, all the good things. All right. So some of these outbreaks. One was Listeria. Do y'all recall that? So we know we had the Listeria outbreak earlier in the year, and that affected a lot of pre-cooked pasta dishes, right? And it affected places like Trader Joe's, Albertsons, Kroger's, and things like Marketplace, Cajun dishes. And so it was something that was, I think, a bit shocking to a lot of people, because you're like, pasta, pasta dishes, it's in the freezer. You think the freezer is safe. But the thing about Listeria is that it's a bacteria that can survive refrigeration sometimes. So you want to make sure that you store your foods at less than 40 degrees. And also, Listeria is something that you can be particularly vulnerable to it if you are a pregnant woman, if you are very young, or if you're elderly over the age of 65. Certainly if you're immunocompromised, then you can be at higher risk for Listeria. And if it's just an infection that affects your GI system, like your stomach, your intestines, that'll happen early on within the first 24 hours. But then there's something called listeriosis, and that can affect outside of your intestinal system. And that might not show up for another 2 weeks. And it can lead to stiff neck. It can lead to neurological symptoms, fever, and passing away. We know we had at least four people to pass away from Listeria, from this outbreak and from this recall. And so here's what I want you to do, please, med heads, everyone in the chat on all social media platforms, and certainly to my folks in the replay crew. Hello. Please put an emoji. What do I want? I want a broccoli emoji. Who doesn't love broccoli? Oh, some people can't eat broccoli, but I want you to put a broccoli emoji in the chat. And I want you to let me know, were you affected by any of the recalls this year? And if so, what food did you have to throw away? Or other things, because we covered other things this year, didn't we? So that was the Listeria I talked about. But even right now, there's a salmonella, right? A salmonella issue for raw oysters. That's something that just recently came out over this past weekend, where they found salmonella in some raw oysters. And we know that salmonella is something that can kick in anywhere from 6 hours to 6 days, and it can cause diarrhea, bloody diarrhea, stomach cramps. Most people will do okay in 4 to 5 days. They'll get over it. But for some people, again, people who are vulnerable, very elderly, immunocompromised, they can get extremely ill from the salmonella. So, make sure, if you're someone who enjoys raw oysters, be careful. Be careful. And right now, the CDC has been recommending that if you're not sure, if you're affected by, an area where there's an outbreak of the salmonella, that you cook your oysters. Okay. Lemon juice is not going to kill salmonella. Hot sauce is not going to kill the salmonella. So that's one of the outbreaks. Different other outbreaks on top of that. Oh gosh, we talked about botulism, right? That By Heart whole nutrition infant formula. There was a recall because in the infant formula, they found that there were Clostridium pores, something that causes botulism. And so infant botulism is something that is a rare but potentially fatal illness. And it happens when spores from the bacterium Clostridium botulinum, when those spores release a certain toxin, and it can make babies paralyzed or have a weak suck where they're not able to suck out of the bottle, give them floppy heads. And it's tricky because the babies don't necessarily have fever. They don't necessarily have fever, but infant botulism is something that can take them out. But meanwhile, was anyone affected by any of these recalls where they had to throw things away or where they were concerned? Was anyone affected by these recalls in 2025?
Yes, TS.
Hi, TS. Welcome back. And thank you for being so supportive in 2025.
Absolutely. TS is plant-based, so I had to get rid of some lettuce like romaine.
Oh, my goodness. And that's kind of scary, right? Because, going back to listeria is something that can be found in the soil. And so different vegetables, okay, have listeria infections, listeria contamination. And so you had to throw away lettuce. And shoot, vegetables are not cheap. They're not free. So it's always frustrating. But if it's a case of a recall, you will get a refund if you're able to go back to the place, from where you bought it. Okay.
Absolutely. Jessica on IG. Hello.
Hey, welcome from IG. IG, please look, when you're finished with this live, make sure you check out the reel that I did on the McCrae cousins. It's all of the children of my grandparents, Mrs. Jetty Lee and Mr. Matthew McCrae the first. And there's 14 of us, and we're all lined up in order. We have our t-shirt numbers on. I'm number 4 out of 14. And so I wasn't listening to those little bossy babies on the end, but you'll see. It's a fun video. So check that out, please.
Jessica said eggs. There was an egg recall.
Oh my goodness. So, and we know the price of eggs has been through the roof. So I hope you were able to take your eggs back and get your money back. And more importantly, I hope that you stayed safe. Yeah. And eggs can sometimes be a source of salmonella. Yeah.
Others are saying no. Marina was not affected.
Okay, good.
And Buffy. Hi, Buffy. Buffy is new. Commenting says no.
Welcome, Buffy. I'm glad you weren't affected. I'll tell you, one thing that I've noted, and I believe that largely it could be because we've had a lot of shakeups, a lot of firings and hirings in the CDC and the FDA. Those are typically the places where we get our information first. So there's been, a disruption to a degree in some of our public health communication, and we had the government shutdown. That didn't help. But just some sources to make sure you check out. If you go to fda.gov, that's one source that can help you, fda.gov/recalls. In fact, Shador, let's go ahead and play a clip, the one that talks about the FDA and how to find out if you have a recall, if there's a food that, unbeknownst to you, that could be on recall.
All right.
Ever hear about a food or drug being recalled and wonder, where can I get some more information? There's a list on our website with more details about recalls, market withdrawals, and safety alerts about certain products. You can check to see if you have any of those products in your home. You can find it at fda.gov/recalls. And be sure to follow us for more recall info. Thanks for watching.
Yes, the USDA also and the CDC, if you go and look on their websites, they'll give you some recall information. I'm just sitting here thinking there were some other recalls too. I think one of the biggest shocks was the shrimp. And I did, some short form content on that. If you put Dr. Frita cesium 137 or Dr. Frita shrimp recall, you could, even on just Google, it'll pull it up, or on YouTube, it'll pull it up.
I have a clip on it as well, Dr. Frita.
Okay, let's go ahead and play that clip.
Another one of radioactive shrimp, potentially radioactive shrimp, I should say. So according to ABC News, the FDA has announced a recall of frozen raw shrimp, about 83,000 bags of them, due to potential exposure to radioactive isotope cesium-137. And if I pronounced that wrong, I'm sorry. These came from Indonesia, and they were sold in 17 different states like Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New York, Pennsylvania, Vermont, Colorado, Iowa, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Montana, North Dakota, Nevada, Oregon, Utah, and Wyoming. It was sold at places like Price Chopper, Jewel Osco, Albertsons, Safeway, Lucky, and other supermarkets across these 17 states. As you go, holiday season's coming up. Just be aware that you could be potentially cooking some potentially radioactive shrimp.
That one was wild, but it's true, because that cesium-137 definitely is a radioactive isotope. And there was a recall that I did a video report on that earlier. And now there's still a recall. Still, there's more shrimp that's being pulled. And one thing about the CCM 137 to note is that in tiny amounts, it's likely not very harmful. But if you're taking it in over long periods of time, it can alter your DNA and potentially cause cancer. Okay. So make sure you go on the FDA website, also USDA, FSI, food safety inspection, and just kind of glance through there sometimes to be sure, that you're not, you don't have anything in your freezer that, has actually been recalled. All right. So anyone else before we keep sliding on to the next topic?
R. Brown has a question, Dr. Frita. Maybe you have a little knowledge.
R. Brown.
R. Brown says, a lady on YouTube seems to have info every few days. Too much. What's happening? Fewer inspections, better testing?
Well, as I was mentioning, there have been the CDC, USDA, FDA, plus, of course, we've had in the past great relationships with World Health Organization, WHO. That's been how we've gotten our information. But, with this new administration, with Trump, and then with RFK Jr., many people have been fired who were in key positions in the CDC, for example. And so you've taken decades of experience for people who knew how to properly assess, catch recalls, get the information out, public health experts who have been fired. And then you have other public health experts who have resigned out of protest to a lot of the misinformation, disinformation. And so there's definitely a correlation with some of the recalls and oftentimes kind of feeling like we're getting the information a little later. And so it really could be an issue with the administration, so that remains to be seen. And, so right now we're just kind of doing the best that we can. And so the information that we still have is CDC, FDA, USDA, and certainly right here on the Dr. Frita channel, when I learn of things, I put them out. And so on your end to do due diligence, just every now and then, just doing a little surveillance of FDA.gov/recall, USDA food safety inspection. But, we don't know for sure the reason. But even with the government shutdown, again, those were weeks where we didn't necessarily get the communication if there had been a recall overseas. And like with this radioactive isotope, that's something that was from Indonesia, right? An Indonesian supplier of the shrimp, the frozen shrimp. So yeah, right now it's a lot of speculation, but we don't have any definitive reason why there seems to have been kind of more recalls than ever. But, we just do the best we can with the knowledge that we have. And we also have to always remember that the people, for whom we vote, the people we place in powerful positions, they really do control, a lot of the different facets of our lives. It's not just an election for who won, this one or that one. It boils all the way down to our health, as we can see, even right down to the recalls of foods. Yeah, that was a really good question.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Frita.
All right.
Brown, for your question.
So now make sure y'all give us a like, and I really want y'all to pick up your pencils and type here because I want you to participate in this next one. Y'all know we have talked about so much when it comes to celebrity health news. We've talked about things from strokes to heart transplants to bladder cancer to these new technologies in creating bladders, like with Deion Sanders. I want you to write in the chat. I want you to put a star emoji. Of all of the celebrity health news, I want you to share which celebrity's story hit home with you the most, okay? Whether it changed your behavior, whether it made you think about a loved one, whether it helped you to potentially, get screened or make a diagnosis. Write down which celebrity's health news hit home the most and share why. Put a star. And meanwhile, we'll just go ahead and I'll talk about some of the celebrity health we reviewed. And just remember, when you go and you put in this YouTube bar, Dr. Frita, whatever celebrity, I guarantee it's going to pop up because we covered a lot. But I'll just do a brief review now. Let's start with Trump. Why not? Okay, so y'all know that I did a lot of talk, right? Not just here, also on different national news shows like News Nation, and I have those short form contents. And if you go to my playlist here and you put, TV appearances, you'll see my different News Nation appearances where I talked about Trump, I talked about RFK Jr. Also, I was on the Don Lemon Show quite a bit. And so you'll be able to catch some of those in my television appearances. But one thing you will recall is we talked about Trump. And let's put him up, please, because, he reports himself as being the healthiest president in history by some accounts, and he's had doctors who talk about just how glowing his health is. But we've seen some things with our own eyes this year, right? We've seen that he's had this bruised hands, and he explained it as, he shakes a lot of hands, but all presidents shake a lot of hands and their bruising doesn't look like his. Plus, when you're shaking hands, that's on the inside, the palm of the hand. It's not on the outside where he had, the bruised hands that he had to cover up with makeup. We also saw swollen ankles, and we know that Trump said that it was from, chronic venous insufficiency. That's what his doctor shared. However, there are many other causes of swollen ankles that they deny, but things that we review just for our, education, things like blood clots, deep venous thrombosis, and also congestive heart failure can cause swollen legs, kidney failure. We've seen some images of Trump where it looked like he had some type of a square-like potential bag under his pants. We don't know, of course, what was under his pants. Lord help us. But it looked like it could be a Foley catheter. We don't know. And if that's the case, it makes you think, does he have some kind of a blockage? Does he have prostate cancer? Does he have a large prostate, BPH? We don't know. But we've also seen him have a loss of words. He's had some confusion, so it seems. He's had some kind of meandering, some very definitive signs of dementia. Whether he has a diagnosis or not, we don't know, but he's definitely been displaying signs of dementia. So these are just some of the things that we've seen with Trump. And oftentimes when I share information, when I go on these national shows talking about Trump, I have a lot of folks who will get upset. Well, what about Biden? You never talk about Biden. Yes, I do. Let's put Biden up, because Biden has shared his health struggles. Now, just a reminder, those who don't seem to remember, Biden is no longer our president. President Biden he's not our current president. But even since he's left office, he shared that he was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer, cancer that has already spread beyond the prostate, and it's in other parts of his body. And we know that he's had some treatment with radiation therapy. He's also, I don't know just how far he's gone in his treatment, but we know he had a hormone sensitive cancer, meaning that, if you withdraw the hormones from it, if you block hormones, then that potentially can help the prostate cancer to shrink. But, this is something that he's been very open with, which is a great message for everyone else, because we know that prostate cancer is the second most common cause of cancer in men. Skin cancer in general is just the most common cancer, and 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer. And one of the things about prostate cancer, it's slow growing. Okay, so that's good that it's slow growing, but still it's important to be screened, especially if you are at high risk. And we know that another celebrity who shared, one of the original YouTube content creators, Monkey Dineva, shared that even at his young age of 42, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer this year. Fortunately, his was in stage 1 and not very aggressive, but President Biden's was an aggressive form that had already spread. President Biden's had. So that's another celebrity. But one thing that I've been sharing here, and for men to get screened, and we talk about the American Cancer Society, American Urological Society, their recommendations. And if you are a man of high risk, which, spoiler alert, all Black men are considered to be at high risk, just because, for whatever reason, prostate cancer tends to be diagnosed at younger ages in Black men and in more aggressive stages when it presents with Black men. But you want to make sure that by no later than the age of 45, you at least have the discussion about screening for prostate cancer, be it a PSA, prostate specific antigen, that blood test, or prostate MRI. You want to talk about getting screened, because again, prostate cancer is slow growing. And if you detect it early, it's something that can be potentially treated with success. Has anyone put any star emojis in the chat, Shador, to share if any celebrity health news has impacted them one way or the other?
Yes, our newest member, Miss Barbara's joining us today. She says, Chad Boseman.
Oh, yes. That's one that really affects. And did she share how it affected her?
She did not.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for being a member. But, of course, Chadwick Boseman is our Black Panther and our wonderful actor who sadly passed away at a young age from colon cancer. And, it threw a lot of people off, because now, once we learned that he had colon cancer, we also learned that at the time that he was diagnosed, that was before it was even recommended for people to be screened. Now, at one point, the age was 50, when it was recommended that, you get your colonoscopy, your screening for colon cancer. Now that's been changed to age 45. It's been changed to age 45. And, again, that's another one where if you get screened early, then that colonoscopy can potentially pick up polyps, which polyps are benign. They tend to be benign, but they can be the precursors for cancer. So if you start getting your colonoscopies by 45, there's a great chance that you can, prevent cancer or catch it very early. And, if you're of average risk, and consult with your doctors, of course, but by 45, it's recommended that you start getting your colon cancer screenings. Now, if you have a strong family history, then the recommendation will be earlier for you. For example, if you have a first degree relative, like a mother, father, sister, brother, say they were diagnosed with colon cancer at age 40, then for you, the recommendation may be to get screened no later than 10 years prior to that, age 30. And then if you have a genetic predisposition like familial adenomatous polyposis, where you just genetically tend to have a lot of polyps, or if you have an inflammatory bowel disease like ulcerative colitis or even Crohn's disease, then your recommendations are going to be different from the general population. But yes, I think Chadwick Boseman was a big wake-up call for a lot of people to go ahead and get screened, because he looked like the picture of health, right? He certainly had access, he had money, he had everything, so it seemed. But if you don't have your health, you just really don't have much of anything. And sadly, again, at the time he was diagnosed, that it wasn't even recommended for him to have any screening. It would be interesting to know if there was a family history. And so that's another thing over these holidays where y'all are rejoicing and talking with your families. Listen, even if they get on your nerves, you're not talking to them, talk to them about this family history. Find out if someone in your family has colon cancer, has breast cancer, has prostate cancer, because that will inform you of your risk. Share that risk with your doctor so you know when to get screened. Thank you. And thank you for being a member.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other star emojis as we go through these celebrities?
Yes, P. Doyle. Hello.
Hi.
Irv Gotti, because I previously had a stroke in 2019.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry that you had a stroke. I pray that you're doing well. And I'm certainly happy that you're here with us, which makes me think that you must be really continuing on your health journey. So I'm glad that you're here.
He's ready for his next one-on-one with you, Dr. Frita. So
what's that?
He's ready for his next one-on-one with you.
Oh, good. Come on down. And of course, if anyone who wants a one-on-one, we do offer a telehealth concierge service here where I can talk to you from anywhere in the world. We set up a time, we set up telehealth. I get your history, I get your labs. And again, I've been board certified in nephrology, internal medicine, pediatrics, obesity medicine. And I just like to read a lot and learn a lot and stay up to date on all of the latest research. And so I love having these one-on-ones. And like we've talked to people literally from all over the world. I love it, from Paris, from just you name it. So thank you so much. But Irv Gotti, let's put up this picture of Irv Gotti, because he was someone who inspired you. Yeah, we learned, of course, that he was a music mogul, very instrumental in, with Ashanti, with Ja Rule. And we learned, had been battling diabetes for years and years and years. And diabetes is one of those things that can put you at a risk for so much. Certainly can put you at a risk for a stroke. Okay. And he was only 54, I believe, 54 when he passed away. Diabetes is the number one cause of kidney failure. Okay. So when I take care of my patients in the dialysis unit, more often than not, they have diabetes, which is very frustrating because, yes, some people can have a genetic predisposition, especially if you have type 1 diabetes, what used to be called juvenile diabetes. But even if there are people who have genetic predispositions, but then largely it's lifestyle, people who have high carbohydrate diets, people who have sedentary lifestyles, not exercising much, that puts you at risk. And, of course, if you're living with obesity, but there's so many things that we can do. Number one, go see your doctor. Okay, and get screened. There's a test called the hemoglobin A1C. And so that's different than just that snapshot of your blood sugar in time. The hemoglobin A1C gives us an average of what your blood sugar has been running over the last 3 months. And if your hemoglobin A1C is between 5.7 and 6.4, you have prediabetes. Okay, you have prediabetes. So it's something that means you don't have diabetes, but you are at very high risk, and there are things that your doctor can do to help you. Not only implementing lifestyle, but if necessary, medications. So he's someone who had complications from diabetes, and certainly stroke is one of the complications. Yeah. All right. So we'll keep putting stars and tell us any celebrities whose health have influenced you. But let's see, who else do we have? Dwayne Wiggins. You have that picture of Dwayne Wiggins from Tony, Tony, Tony. So y'all know I love Tony, Tony, Tony. It's our anniversary. Yes, you're welcome for the free concert. So Dwayne Wiggins, one of the founding members of Tony, 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 passed away at the age of 64 with bladder cancer. Okay, with bladder cancer. And there are different things that can put you at risk for bladder cancer. One being a cigarette smoker. I don't know if he was a cigarette smoker or not. Also, you could have a genetic predisposition. You can have Lynch syndrome or one of these predispositions that will make your DNA more likely to change or to mutate. At any rate, he had bladder cancer, and some of the signs and symptoms of bladder cancer, you can have bloody urine, you can get some type of a blockage or an obstruction, you can have weight loss. And sadly, bladder cancer is one of those things where we don't have a set screening, like we have set, colonoscopy recommendations, and we have set, cervical cancer recommendations as far as screening, breast cancer recommendations, but we don't have one for bladder cancer. And so that's frustrating. And so you really do need to pay attention to your body. If you do see blood in your urine, or if you notice that you have a decreased appetite or your urine stream has changed, things of that nature. And certainly if you smoke cigarettes, please stop. That is like cigarette smoking is like the biggest risk factor, for just about any kind of an illness, be it cancer, emphysema, COPD, all of those things. But yeah, that's another one of the celebrities we talked about. Who else have we talked about? Oh, geez. Of course, we have talked about Diddy and his health issues. And with Diddy, we've more kind of talked about the mental health aspect, right? Anxiety and also substance abuse, because we learned that when he was initially arrested, even before his trial, he had pink powder, which they found to be, the illicit substance, pink cocaine, which most of the pink cocaine, though it has that name, doesn't actually have cocaine in it. It has things like MDMA or Molly. After you finish this live, make sure you check out my video here on YouTube where I talk about the truth about Molly or MDMA, ecstasy. It also might have ketamine in it, or 2CB, or even bath salts, and it can really mess you up. But we've talked about depression, we've talked about anxiety, we've talked about domestic violence here. And so this is just another one of those topics. Like, I can't even go over all of them, but just make sure that whatever search bar, be it YouTube, be it Google, put Dr. Frita and put one of these celebrities in there, and I'll give you some more information on it. All right. Any other star emojis of people talking about celebrities?
No, the star emojis Dr. Frita, but Ananda Lewis. We talked about
Ananda Lewis, definitely another one. And her story, we know, beautiful, highly intelligent, actually, one of the VJs. And she had her own talk show for a while. She was on Teen Summit, BET, just, a lot of personality, very lively. She was a mother, and she passed away with breast cancer. And what was really profound about her story was that even when she learned that she had it, she chose not to get, the recommended treatment. So she's someone who shared, admittedly, that she didn't get mammograms the way that it was recommended because she didn't want exposure to the different radiation from mammograms. And just, for all of our viewers, understand that there's always a risk in just about every procedure you do, every medicine you take, but the radiation exposure is so low that it is believed that the benefits of catching something like a breast cancer far, far, far outweigh the risks of having a consequence from that small amount of radiation. She also shared that even once she was diagnosed with breast cancer, she chose not to do the chemotherapy in the way that it was recommended. She chose not to get the double mastectomy that was recommended. And at one point she changed her mind. She shared this, but by the time she wanted the double mastectomy, it was already too late. The cancer had already spread. And I think the bravest things that Ananda Lewis did was that she shared that she felt that she made a mistake. Okay. She wasn't pious. She wasn't like, no, I made the right decision. This is my choice. And of course it was her choice. But she said, had I made a different decision, I probably would be around her longer. She said this when she knew that her condition was terminal before she passed. And she even shared that her sister had been diagnosed before her sister got her mammograms. They detected it early. She's like, she took a little pill for 5 years and now she's fine. So she shared that if she had to do it all over again, she would have taken the medical recommendations more seriously. And I thought that was really brave. And I thought that was a wonderful legacy for her to leave, But yeah, Ananda Lewis is another one. Who are some of the other celebrities? It goes on and on and on. We know
on IG, Jessica and a couple are saying Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis, that's another one with the frontotemporal dementia, right? And, there was a diagnosis, potentially a misdiagnosis of Wendy Williams. But for him, his dementia was so interesting because normally people get diagnosed with dementia at older ages, right? Like definitely well over 65, over 70. But with frontotemporal dementia, most people are diagnosed or they present when they are less than 60, which is what he did. And with the frontotemporal dementia, your frontal lobes and your temporal lobes are affected. And so it can affect your speech, the way that you process language, the way that you express language. It can cause you to have problems with impulse control, things of that nature. And we know that his family has been very protective of him. We haven't seen too much of him. Every now and then they put him in social media, but he's no longer able to act. He was not able to hold on to the language or to be able to do the roles. But yeah, that's another one. Yeah, for folks, it's when they learned about him, they knew that dementia was not just for quote unquote old people, but to pay attention for signs and symptoms, even with young people, because it can be frontotemporal dementia. Good.
Absolutely. All right, I'll take one more. R. Brown.
Brown.
Emoji, but Venus Williams and Sjogren's disease was alarming, and she had to play tennis again to get better insurance. So, and never heard of it before.
Absolutely. So that's one of those autoimmune diseases. Yeah, because you hear about lupus, you hear about rheumatoid arthritis, you hear about Crohn's, where your antibodies attack your own body. But Sjogren's is another one. And so imagine she has this, and had to play tennis with being severely fatigued. And congratulations to Venus, because she just got married. So I'm very happy for her, actually. But beyond just having the Sjogren's, she also shared how she had really bad fibroids and severe anemia, even while playing tennis. So you learned something, that Sjogren's is one of those autoimmune disorders that's out there. Yeah. Yep. So, and I did some short form content on Venus as well. If you go through and put Dr. Frita Venus Williams, then you'll be able to pull that up. Okay. All right. So yeah. So just make sure, you go through, and even just go through, if you go to YouTube and you click on lives, you'll see where we've talked about the celebrity health all throughout. And so our point is, and as y'all have shared, it looks like it works. When we see what's going on with celebrities, it's not just to look and ooh and ah, but it's to take their stories that are in the headlines and to use them to give us a chance to have healthier, happier lives, and to make us a little smarter about our prevention and about our screening. All right. Good. All right. Please go ahead. Don't forget to give us a like, a follow, a subscribe as we keep moving. We have over 939,000 subscribers here on YouTube. We're steadily marching to 1 million. All right. So let's see. Some other things that have been really interesting. We kind of hit on them a little bit. The rise in strokes, especially among young people. Okay. That's really been something. And I want you to put a brain emoji if you or someone a loved one has been affected by strokes. And if you care to share your story, or if one of the celebrities has, moved you. We already heard from one person who shared that Irv Gotti's story kind of hit home. But yeah, so we had a lot of folks with strokes, including Donald Glover, or Childish Gambino. And his stroke was something that was interesting because he was in his barely 40 when he had his stroke. And it wasn't due to the typical risk factors that you think about. It wasn't due to, obesity or smoking cigarettes, to our knowledge, or his was due to, he had a hole in his heart, probably a patent foraminal valley, a hole in the heart. And when that happens, you can get a blood clot that crosses over through the septum, the divider in your heart, and it goes to your brain through one of the major arteries. And when people heard about him having a hole in his heart, they're like, oh, that sounds really crazy. That's rare. But really, 1 in 4 Americans, 1 in 4 has a hole in the heart. Usually they do fine, will go a whole lifetime without knowing it. But if the hole is large enough, or if the person happens to have blood clots, and just if all of the cracks line up, then just like Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, they can have a stroke. And so that happened with him. And we had some other people who had strokes as well, I believe. But did anyone put any brains in the chat so far?
Yeah, we have a brain from Kelly.
Hi, Kelly. Welcome.
And Dr. Alice Cryer.
Hi, Dr. Alice. Yeah. One thing that we're learning that there's different, actually quite a bit of different risk factors for strokes. And that's another thing. If you want, please share risk factors for strokes. Put a brain and just put a risk factor for a stroke. But one thing, stress, and Lord knows that a lot of folks, young age people have stress. And so that's one of the causes that they think, in addition to people having holes in the heart, also with so many Americans being affected by living with obesity. That's another one of the risk factors. We talked about smoking cigarettes, but can y'all throw out some other risk factors for strokes? Anyone? What else? If you're someone who has a history of blood clots like DVTs, that can be a risk factor for a stroke. Also AFib, atrial fibrillation. If you have abnormal heart rhythms, then having the abnormal heart rhythm can cause the blood in your heart to kind of slosh around. And if it sloshes around, it's more likely to form a clot. And a blood clot in the heart can lead to you having a stroke. So atrial fibrillation. We know that Senator Fetterman ended up having a stroke even before he was elected to being senator. And he shared that he has a diagnosis of atrial fibrillation and ended up having a stroke that was related to that. Other risk factors, obstructive sleep apnea. Now, people oftentimes think about snoring like, oh, they snore, they're calling hogs, oh, they're breathing loud, oh, I can't sleep. But it's not a joke. If you have a loved one who snores, and then there's silence, there's a great chance that they have obstructive sleep apnea. And that can put you at a higher risk for a stroke, among other things. It can put you at risk for hypertension, for pulmonary hypertension as well, lung hypertension, where the definitive treatment ultimately might be a lung transplant. And so that's another risk factor. Anyone else throw any risk factors out here for strokes?
Yes, crisscross.
Hey, crisscross will make you jump.
I love what crisscross comes on. Subdural hematoma.
So now you're talking about brain bleeds. So subdural hematoma, and that's something we don't talk about it enough, crisscross. A subdural hematoma can occur. Older people are at higher risk. They're not the only ones who can get it, but they're at higher risk because you have these bridging veins that kind of connect your skull to the brain. And the older that you are, the brain will shrink. Let's see. The older that you are, the brain will shrink, which will mean, hold on just a second. Okay. Your brain will shrink, which will mean that the veins that are kind of attaching your brain to the skull will stretch. And so you can imagine if you're an older person and you hit your head, or if you have a fall, then it'll be easier for these stretched brains to tear, and I'll give you a subdural hematoma. So you can get like a brain bleed or a subdural hematoma. And the tricky thing is that subdural hematomas don't always pop up with symptoms right away. Sometimes you can go days or even weeks. And so always pay attention if someone has a fall, or they hit their head, or you even suspect it, and you're like, oh, they're fine, they didn't lose consciousness, but then you notice they're having some altered mental status. Pay attention to that, because they can have a subdural hematoma. I know this one person I know who a garage door just kind of came down and hit him on the head. And he was probably maybe in his early 60s. He was fine. But weeks later, he started having altered mental status, and it was from the subdural hematoma. Very good. Anyone else?
Yes. Audrey, hello.
Hey, welcome, Audrey.
Audrey says hypertension.
Thank you. Hypertension, huge risk factor. And y'all know, of course, that I am a high blood pressure specialist. Make sure you check out my book, Under Pressure, A Guide to Controlling High Blood Pressure. We talk about natural remedies, how to lower blood pressure naturally. We also talk about, of course, traditional ways of lowering blood pressure. That's a huge risk. You can get blood pressure that's very high, and it can cause brain blood vessels to burst. You can get a brain bleed that way. And that's another celebrity, Caesar from Black Ink, in his 40s had strokes. He's had 2 strokes at least. And he shared that he had very high blood pressure that he knew about. He did a Carlos King interview. And if y'all put in the YouTube search bar, Google search bar, Dr. Frita Black Ink or Dr. Frita Caesar, then you'll see where I covered and give you some good, nice little short form content on Caesar from Black Ink, because his high blood pressure led to what sounds like a hemorrhagic stroke or a brain bleed. He said he saw spots of blood on his CAT scan. He also shared how that hypertension led him to have congestive heart failure, where his ejection fraction that he described was around 10%. And that's low enough that if it stays that low, you could be a candidate for a heart transplant. Yeah. Let's see.
All right.
But yeah. So there's a lot of folks who've had strokes, but just make sure that you consult with your doctor, that you make sure that you know your numbers, like your cholesterol. Having high cholesterol is another risk factor for having a stroke. Also, just, making sure that you exercise. According to the American Heart Association, it's recommended that most people exercise for 150 minutes, 150 minutes of moderate exercise per week. Yeah. Let's see. Anyone else?
Yeah, on IG they're participating today. Jacqueline,
Hey, welcome. I love IG.
Jacqueline says epilepsy.
Oh gosh. So if you have someone who has epilepsy, specifically status epilepticus, now in that case, if you are having epilepsy and you are going a long time, that can put you at a risk for many things, including having low oxygen. As far as having a direct stroke or brain bleed, not necessarily that, but you can have low oxygen or hypoxia. And we know that having hypoxia or low oxygen can decrease your blood flow. And so in that case, it could cause some ischemia. And we know there are two types of strokes, ischemic strokes and hemorrhagic strokes. The ischemic ones are more common, like 85% or 83% of strokes. So yeah, if you have some extreme epilepsy where you go into status epilepticus, that could potentially lead to low oxygen and decrease oxygen to the brain. Thank you.
All right. And Denzel on IG added.
You said Denzel. Denzel's on my line. How you doing? Welcome. What
added, diabetes.
Diabetes, definitely a huge risk factor for strokes. Diabetes. Yes, absolutely. And we already know diabetes can increase your risk for high cholesterol, for high blood pressure, for heart disease, for all of the things. Yep. And then keeping with the celebrities, Nene Leakes' son, Brent, at a young age, we know that he had heart disease and he actually ended up having a heart transplant. So that's another, kind of review of 2025. Had a heart transplant, So yeah, definitely you want to control diabetes, high blood pressure, and these other stroke risk factors. Yep.
Oh, so, Jamie Foxx. Yolanda throughout
Jamie Foxx. Who said Jamie Foxx?
Yolanda.
Hi, Yolanda. Welcome. Yes, another person. He shared his stroke. Was actually prior to 2025, but he just came out this year and shared his story, right? And we know that he had high blood pressure. It's just a reminder because, he's in shape, he's muscular, he's slender, all of those things. And he looks like he's a picture of health, but it doesn't matter how healthy you look. If you have high blood pressure, it must be managed or it is a huge risk factor for a stroke. Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. All right. Anyone else with any brain emojis, star emojis, anything else? Oh, we do. Who else? What else we got?
OC, hello. OC says many strokes from neuropathy and small vesicle syndrome.
Okay, very good. So one thing that's interesting with small vessels, you can get strokes that can lead to something called a vascular dementia, where it's almost like stair-step symptoms. You have some symptoms and then you're better. You have some symptoms, and then you're better. Or you have symptoms and then you kind of get gradually worse. And that's because you can get small vessels in your brain that bleed, like little micro hemorrhages, and that can lead to strokes. All right. So we talked about the different celebrities with the health issues. Gosh, there's even TD Jakes. Remember, he had the issue while he was right there on stage. So we talked about Jamie Foxx. Even Justin Timberlake had health issues. I'm sitting here going through the year in review. He had Lyme disease. So you can put Dr. Frita Lyme disease or Dr. Frita Justin Timberlake, where you'll see where I covered that. And so just a wealth of information that we have right here on the YouTube channel that you'll be able to review. But thank y'all for your participation. But now we've looked back on 2025, but now let's look ahead to 2026 because it's right around the corner, is it not?
It is. One big thing with 2025, the outbreaks.
Oh shoot! Look, I don't even want to talk about that. And that's one place where we went kind of backwards, and of course we covered that well. One being the measles outbreaks, right? Where we had at one point we thought that we had eradicated the measles back in 2020, but now this year, 2025, we've had more measles outbreaks than we've had in 30 years. We had our first deaths from the measles in 10 years, And we've even had pediatric patients. We had 2 young girls at least who passed away from measles, and they were unvaccinated. And so this is just one of those things that makes me sad about 2025 on how so much of the misinformation and disinformation coming from the top, okay, coming from RFK Jr., who has been a known vaccine skeptic for years. Well, now, we have less and less people taking in the measles vaccine. And it's important to remember that we need herd immunity in order to protect us. Meaning, when I say herd immunity, that means that when most people in a community are either vaccinated or who have already had the disease and so that they're immune to it, then it protects the others. We need at least 95% herd immunity to protect people. So for example, if 95% of the people in your city have either had measles or they've been vaccinated, then that will protect even the babies who are less than 1 and too young to get a vaccine. And it will protect the elderly who might be more vulnerable to measles. It'll also protect people who might be allergic to measles vaccines. Okay. But now, like, we've had many outbreaks, at least 2 in South Carolina and 1 that's going on now, where most of the people, again, unvaccinated, but we had, outbreaks there, and they've been quarantined for 21 days. And in some cases, you've had children who have had 2 sets of quarantines for 21 days, missing 42 days of activities, a lot of those days being out of school. And just remember, if you get 2 doses of the measles vaccine, you have a 97% chance of not getting the measles. And measles is not just a matter of a fever or a rash. It can take your life, okay? It can also cause encephalitis or inflammation of the coverings of the brain and spinal cord. It can lead to pneumonia. It can lead to blindness. It can lead to deafness. Measles, yes, measles can do all of these things. So make sure you consult with your doctor and make sure you're up to date on your measles vaccines. We've got other things, flu. Listen, check out right here on YouTube. I did a short form content just this past week on subclade K, H3N2. Ugh. Okay, because the flu is going bananas this year. We've had at least 4.6 million cases, at least 49,000 hospitalizations, at least 1,900 deaths, including at least 3 pediatric deaths from the flu. And our vaccines, and I got my flu vaccine. I encourage you to. The CDC recommends that everyone 6 months and up get a flu vaccine. But unfortunately, our vaccine is not as protective as it's been in the past. We think it only offers like a 30 or 40% protection. But I'll tell you firsthand, I've been up close and personal with people who've had influenza A, breathing the air before I knew they had the flu, and I didn't get it. But I did get the flu vaccine. So I guess that means I was in that 30 to 40% of protection. My point is, I'd rather have 30 to 40% protection than no protection. So I still recommend that you get the flu vaccine, consult with your doctor. But this year, that flu's been causing super high fevers, greater than 104 degrees Fahrenheit, greater than 103 degrees Fahrenheit, causing body aches, headaches, upper respiratory symptoms like coughing. And if you're someone who has like asthma or COPD, then the flu can really affect you strongly. You don't want it. So the good news is that if you do get the flu and within 48 hours, if you catch it, then there are certain medications, one being Tamiflu, and that can cut back the length, that can cut back the duration of the flu, decrease some of your symptoms, and especially if you're someone who's vulnerable. And we have someone else, Mickey Lee from Big Brother. Reportedly, she had the flu, and hers was severe to the point where she had to be hospitalized in the ICU. And then she had reportedly multiple cardiac arrests, and she just passed away on Thursday at 35 years of age. Beautiful young lady, very popular from Big Brother. She passed away. And so reportedly she had the flu. So please don't look at it as just being, a little bit of a cold or a little bit of just the run-of-the-mill sickness, just intense. No, the flu can take your life, even if you're young. Okay. Yeah. Yep. So flu outbreaks, measles outbreaks. We had, whooping cough outbreaks, especially in Louisiana. Things got bananas with that because we believe, there's a correlation at least, with a decrease in people getting the vaccine against whooping cough, a decrease in babies getting the pertussis vaccine. And again, that's something that can take your life. I remember when I did my internal medicine pediatrics residency at Georgetown, I saw babies, usually who came from other countries, from low-income countries. They didn't have access to the pertussis vaccine, the vaccine from whooping cough. But now we're seeing right here in the United States, even people with access are choosing not to get vaccinated, and babies are dying. That's just a simple fact. Yeah. Anything else or any other comments, Shador?
I do want to shout out our members, Dr. Frita, as we'll be meeting with them today, depending on your tier.
Yes. So for all of our chief resident members, we're about to have our live members Q&A. So make sure you get that link. Yeah.
So shout out to Miss Andrea for joining us.
Hey, welcome.
Sandra.
Hi, Sandra.
And Lady Normel is with us today.
Hello. Thank you. Glad that you're here. Yeah. So it's a whole lot. The 2025 has been really a trip. So we've had the celebrity health issues, the strokes in young people, the recalls in food, the outbreaks with preventable infections. That's frustrating. All right, but let's look forward. Listen, I want y'all to please put in the chat, and I want y'all just to give me a good old happy face emoji. Give me a happy face. Let's be positive for 2026. And I want you to share at least one thing that you will do toward continuing your good health or toward improving your health, be it drinking water, be it exercising more, being it, seeing your primary care doctor, be it, getting cancer screenings that you've been putting off. Name one thing that you're going to do to continue on your health journey or even to improve your health in 2026. Give me a smiley face because we're going to end on a happy note. Yeah. I know one thing for me, and I've shared, I know members, listen, for y'all who are members, I know you see me in the members only videos that I do. For me, oftentimes being that I am a doctor, I like to sit around and act like a know-it-all, which means that sometimes, instead of me going in to see the doctor for different little things, I'll kind of sit home, or I'll be somewhat of a doctor bully where I'll call a doctor who's like not even a primary care doctor, be like, hey, write me up for a cholesterol panel. Hey, check my thyroid for me. And that's just not a good idea. So one thing that I'm doing, and I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. I just believe in, as I think about it, do it. I've, stepped back, added a little humility to the picture, reestablished, with the primary care doctor. And I'm going in with listening, humble ears and being the patient. Not intellectualizing and explaining things away. And I'm telling you, that's a challenge, especially if you have a doctor who maybe is newer than you are or younger than you are. So, you hear us as physicians sit here and we spout this information and tell you this and tell you that. And listen, I'm telling y'all the truth. Okay. I'm telling y'all evidence-based medicine, but it's very important that even if you are a physician, to pause and take the time to care for yourself. My mama always says, a doctor who is her own patient has a fool for a patient. Yeah, so that's my kind of continuing thing into 2026. Pausing. I've always been good with getting my health screenings. In fact, I'm going to get a mammogram today. So make sure y'all, especially if by the age of 40, make sure, ladies, that you consult with your doctors about getting your screening mammograms. Ask about the 3D mammogram. Even if your insurance doesn't cover it, ask what the cost is, because especially if you have dense breasts, which a lot of Black women tend to have, then the 3D mammogram just gets a better look and it's a better screening. And 1 in 8 women will get breast cancer. Okay. Men can get breast cancers as well. But 1 in 8 women will get breast cancer. And again, Black women tend to be diagnosed with more aggressive cancers at younger ages. So make sure that when it's appropriate that you get your mammogram. So for me, it's appropriate this afternoon, apparently. All right. Anyone put any smiley faces? What we got going on? What's coming for us in 2026 for health goals?
Not going on. Spencer.
Hi, Spencer.
I'm going to lose weight and eat healthy.
Very good. Very good. Now, I hope you have a plan. Make sure that you're consulting with your doctor, to decide. And for anyone who is having a weight loss journey, remember, I am also board certified in obesity medicine by the American Board of Obesity Medicine. Yes, it's official. I have my board certification. And so please schedule a telehealth concierge appointment with me, and I can help you on your weight loss journeys. We have some great things going on. In addition to, of course, exercising, making the proper eating choices. For those who have been living with chronic obesity, take a look. We do have those medications like the Zepbound, like the Wegovy. The Wegovy has been FDA approved in pill form, and that's going to be available, it looks like, in early January. And also some of the pricing has gone down for some of these GLP-1s, and there's new ones coming out that have even like 3 different mechanisms of action. And so make sure your minds are open to those things when you consult with your doctors. Good.
All right, I'll shout out a few more. Wise Mickey from IG.
Hi.
Eat healthy and reduce inflammation in 2026.
Very good. Very good. So, and of course you can have an anti-inflammatory diet. Check out some of my videos on different foods that are good for reducing inflammation, a lot of anti-inflammatory foods. If you check out some of the videos I have right here on YouTube, like if you look up Dr. Frita, The Truth About Kidney Detox, or if you put in the search bar, Dr. Frita, 15 foods to help to repair your kidneys. I have talked about a lot of anti-inflammatory foods there. Even as far as your blood pressure, I have a video so you can look up Dr. Frita, 21 high potassium foods to lower blood pressure naturally. So there's a lot of food as medicine. So very good. Reducing inflammation is key. Good.
Absolutely. Our newest member, Miss Barbara, she says,
Hi.
I had bariatric sleeve and I worked out 3 days a week and will continue my journey in 2026.
You come to the front of the class. Let me tell you why I like what you just shared. So you had the bariatric surgery, you got the sleeve. And so we know that that will help you to lose weight. That can even decrease your risk for diabetes, or in some cases, reverse diabetes. Yes, a bariatric sleeve, it can help with high blood pressure, can help with arthritis, can help with back pain. All those things can help you to move better. But the key thing that I like is that you recognize that the bariatric surgery is just part of the solution. You still must move your body. You still must make good food choices. It's not over after you get the surgery. A lot of people make that mistake. They're like, I got the sleeve and I don't know why I gained all this weight back, because you're not putting the work in. So congratulations to you. And yes, keep that going through 2026 and beyond. Thank you. Real good.
Absolutely. Joyously Hopeful.
Hi, Joyously Hopeful. How you doing?
She says, I'm obese with hypertension, so stopping carbs and continue with being a pescatarian.
Very good. Very good. And make sure that you're not doing it alone. Okay. Because I know a lot of people just say, I'm just going to stop this. And in January, I'm going to cut back on the sugar and cut back on the carbs and this, that, and the other. It's not always just that easy. Okay. If you have great willpower, great. But also consult with your doctor, consult with a registered dietitian, and come up with the best ways to have success. Don't beat yourself up. Don't kick yourself if you keep starting a diet over and over again. But if you're doing the same thing over and over again and it's not making a difference, reach out to your doctor, reach out to your registered dietitian and find out if there's something more that you need to do, especially with that living with obesity, because again, we know that's a high risk for diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, strokes, kidney failure, you name it. So if what you're doing on your own alone is not working, don't be afraid to consult with your doctor. And if your doctor recommends it, be open to medications if that's something that's going to be best for you. Just be open, get the pros and the cons. Yeah.
Drinking water is a big one. Purple Onion and Yolanda plan on drinking more water.
Hello, Purple Onion. Hello, Yolanda. Absolutely. Check out my video, Dr. Frita, the benefits of drinking water, right here on YouTube. But yes, it's going to vary from person to person. For most people, most adults who don't have fluid restriction, drinking anywhere from 2 to 3 liters of water a day. So like 4 to 6 of the routine 16-ounce bottles of water. Every time someone says they're going to drink more water, I get thirsty. Anyway, but that's going to be good for kidney health, for skin health, and just, for your health in general, making sure you're not dehydrated. Good.
Absolutely. And of course, on top of the list for a lot, exercise.
Yep. And, and just remember, to exercise, you don't have to run a marathon every day. You don't have to just do an hour and a half HIIT training, because some people are all or none. If they can't get the full hour in, they're like, I just can't do it. No, even doing little bursts of 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, doing squats at your desk, doing wall sits, doing planks. And, we used to say, oh, get 10,000 steps in a day, with your smartphone or smart watch or something like that. But then 7,000 steps a day, we saw that just this year, we reviewed it in 2025, that there are some clinically significant health parameter benefits to 7,000 steps a day. And then there was even a study showing that 4,000 steps a day could help. My point is, even if it's what seems like a little to you, it can help your health. And make sure when you finish with this live, check out my video here, Dr. Frita, top 10 exercises to lower blood pressure naturally. Very good.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Frita.
All right. We had a lot of participation today. Thank you, MedHeads. All right. And now for all of you who are my chief residence members, the members at the highest tier, we're going to go ahead and slide over there for our members only. Make sure you continue to follow us on all social media platforms. I give you updates on when I am, on talking about different shows I'm on. Just last week, I was on Southern Sin True Crime, where I was on a panel of various great legal minds, including attorney Gerald Griggs. And we talked about the Rob Reiner, Michelle Reiner case. And we talked about Nick Reiner. Is he competent to stand trial? Is it insanity? Is it privilege? Apparently his hotel was searched without a warrant. And so they really are great on there where they're talking about the different sides of the case. I, of course, talk about the medical aspect, schizophrenia. And I remind people before they stigmatize that for people with schizophrenia, you are more likely to be assaulted if you have schizophrenia than to be the assaulter. So I don't want people to stigmatize and think that all schizophrenics are liable to go or likely to go and to take the lives of others. They're not all violent people by any means, but it's a really great talk. We'll be putting it here on on the Dr. Frita YouTube playlist, television appearances. I'll make sure we get that to you. And so again, make sure you give us a like before you leave. Give us a subscribe. Again, we have over 939,000 subscribers. We're headed to 1 million with your help, of course. And then over on my other social media platforms, on one we crossed over 60,000 last week on IG. Very excited about that. So just please join us. Give us a follow on platforms, and I will keep giving you evidence-based information. And I will keep appreciating you for your support and for sharing this information with the people you care about so that they too can live their healthiest, happiest lives. I thank you for joining us here on Dr. Frita Live, where we talked about the latest trending medical headlines and celebrity health news. And again, thank you for making Monday your healthiest day of the week.